Hey there guys, it's Metro, and we have another video on tank discussion going on today. But I'm going to tell you right now that this week, at the week I'm making this video, is the week they've announced the expansion, and it's like 3 resets away. So this is going to be one of the last ones, alright? Soon we'll be talking about combining all of this discussion into a video where I will be summarizing all the changes to tanks, giving my thoughts on all the changes to tanks, and helping you better understand what's changing so you can make the decision you need. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that because it's going to depend on when they continue to make changes. Because if I did it right now, it'd be a complete waste of time. It's obviously still, a lot is still changing. But for the most part, I think I have a good summary in my head. So let me know what you think about that. But anyway, we're going to take a look at this. There's a couple, probably like 3 or 4 really big things going on in this build. And we're going to be back. I also want to say that next week we're going to be back to playing a lot of beta, or more than we have been. I plan on doing keys on beta this coming week. It's going to be a really tough week, but I hope to continue to see dungeons and learn more about them, but we'll see. It's going to be a tough week, so people will probably leave a lot. But anyway, so we have some changes to Night Fate Covenant. Just more of this. We talked about the last 2 builds, really, where they're seemingly trying to make the actual soul binds either more competitive or more interesting in general. So this one is pretty big. Activating your Night Fate class ability puts flowers at your feet 15 times 1 second. So that's, I don't know why, I never understood this 15 times 1, but, yeah, okay, so it's for 15 seconds, that increase your haste by 12% when you stand in them. So a longer amount of haste, instead of 10 seconds of 15%. This seems like it's a buff, right? 5 extra seconds for only 3% less. I think that's a buff. So this is one that I'm really liking. We've been talking a lot about that, and I hope that it will be something I can use. I don't know how long it takes to unlock that, but also some other stuff. But nothing really, just something to keep in mind that they're still changing all this. But let's get on to class stuff, because this is a little bit more interesting stuff here. So now they changed Death Strike. I mean, this is not something to even care about, but it made 7.0%. Which I guess is probably because they're adding conduits that do things like this, like 7.2, like these small conduit changes. But it's not really, I don't think it's anything to care about. But here's something that you should care about. Grip of the Everlasting. Now, this legendary, it just used to not do this, I guess, just flat out. It just didn't do that. So it used to just do for 3 seconds after casting Death Grip, you may cast the spell a second time without regard for its cooldown. Okay, now that already looked like a legendary that might have some situational usage where it's like, if you did like fight like Hive Mind or fight like Mechatork in Battle for Azeroth, you would know that there was times when having 2 Death Grips would have been really, really, really useful, and maybe even having 3 would be really useful. So here is a legendary that's going to make that even better now. Death Grip's cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. Now, you might not be aware, but Death Grip is actually a shorter cooldown anyway than like Unholy's CD. So this is really good for Blood. Presumably, it's here. I just want to show it 15 seconds. So I think it's 30 seconds for non-Blood DK. I'm not actually sure because I don't ever spec them. But yeah, it's definitely... so now it's going to be only 3 seconds off 15 seconds, right? So 12 seconds... and you get a free Death Grip within 3 seconds. So that's pretty nuts. That means you can, grip 4 targets within 12 seconds, basically, within like 13 or so seconds. So pretty crazy. I think this is going to be a legendary that is probably going to be like, again, Blood DK just has like the best slew of legendaries. I don't think they have any one amazing legendary. I don't think they have any one amazing soulbind, conduit, any of this stuff. But they just have such a good slew of everything. I think they have the best balance, kind of the best overall combination of all these things, and I cannot wait to see how they play out. So there's also a bunch of changes to, there's like a whole post about Havoc changing. In terms of some other small changes here. Fell Bombardment. Immolation has a chance to grant a stack of Fell Bombardment, increase the damage of your next Throw Glaive. So this is a legendary that all classes can use, or all specs can use, I assume. I think this got changed dramatically at some point, because I remember talking about the potential here that Throw Glaive might be really big. But yeah, anyway, this is a legendary change from 20%, 50%, and it can stack up to 5 times. So that's pretty big deal. That can go all the way up to, yeah, that goes up pretty high now. So it'll be interesting legendary. We'll see how that works out. They also changed this Vicious Ink again, which was something that I think Jix and I especially, but others were really interested in seeing this conduit. Basically, demonic wards also reduces magic damage taken by 8%. So just like this huge flat passive buff to Vengeance, which I'd say probably one of the main things making Vengeance look as good as it did. And it's really not that changed, because all it seems to have done is gone down a few percent on every one. So if you watched the video last week, we had really big changes. Like it would have gone from like 8% to 6%, but then 15% to like 9% or something. And then the whole slew would have changed. But yeah, I think this is probably a little bit more reasonable. It doesn't actually make any sense though, because it says it's 11.5% here and then it goes to 10%. But I assume that's meant to be here, and this is probably not even in the game. I don't know why this is structured this way, but anyway, these are Bombkin things. Let's take a look at Guardian stuff. So, Soulbind Conduits. Savage Combatant. Mangle increase the duration of your next maul by 15%, up from 10%. And it can stack up to 3 times. It now goes all the way up to 36%. So, this is a pretty big single target buff to bear. And I would say it's something that they do need dramatically. So, we'll see how good that actually gets. But I mean, if you got it all the way up to 36% and stacked up to 3 times, that's a big buff, right? It's 100% more damage from Maul. And you're going to be using Mangle quite a lot. So I don't see why it wouldn't stack up quick, you know? Unchecked Aggression, though. You gain 15% haste during Berserk and Bear form. Now that's really, I feel like that's a little overkill, especially if you're using other CDs with it. But it's another big buff to, you know, Bears' potential overall offense. I don't think this is a buff to their defense at all, because it's already ridiculous, like super overkill. Like you're not going to get any more Iron Furs up. You're going to be capped. Your armor is going to be capped. So I don't know what you would do with all this rage, but other than try to dump it into offense, I don't see how that actually benefits it. But it's a huge buff yet again. Well-honed Instincts. When you fall below 40% health, that's really good. You cast Frenzy Regen up to once every 90 seconds. Now, 40% health is a big difference, especially if you've ever played a high HP tank like Blood DK. You know what the difference between 25 and 40% is. So that's a really big change, but it's still only once every 90 seconds. So probably not really that big of a difference. The question is, why is there not a chart showing, well, what part on this actually changes? I don't know. Maybe the once every 90 seconds thing changes. That's probably the case. Anyway, that's about it, I think, for Druid. There's some general stuff here, but I don't really understand what I'm reading. Adaptive Swarm has been changed again. Seemingly now no longer has a separated thing. So command a swarm that heals, blah, blah, blah. Jumps to... So I guess it was just a change for Balanced Druid, because it seemed like Balanced Druid had a separate spell ID. So now it's just the same for everybody. Here's some overall conduit changes. While channeling Convoke the Spirits, your damage and healing are increased by 15%, and that goes all the way up to 36%. So another major buff to to Bear DK, yeah, to Bear Druids overall damage potentially here with this. You know, this is with when you have Night Fae as your covenant. Endless Thirst as well has now been massively nerfed. I think they did this last week though, didn't they? I don't know. I mean, this is just the conduit, but Ravenous Frenzy increases your critical strike chance by 2% per stack. Now it's only 0.5% per stack, which, you know, you can get up to like 20 stacks pretty easily. I'd say like quite easily, but now it only goes up to 1.2%. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you even increase your critical strike chance by 0.5%? Isn't that like, I don't know. I don't understand it. Okay, no problem. So that's pretty much it for that stuff. There's still some small changes. Breath of Fire has been buffed. Breath of the Fire has been buffed. Again, Brewmaster offensive buffs continue to trickle in. Not anything huge, but continue to trickle in. Eye of the Tiger back to limit on 1 target. Or no, that was never that was never that way, was it? So this is like a massive nerf to this talent. Is that right? Used to be able to put it on multiple targets, didn't you? Or maybe you never could, and it was just a tooltip change. These are Mistweaver changes that everybody's going nuts about, saying the really bad changes for Mistweaver. This is an interesting change, though. It's Windwalker, technically, but this is a legendary I talked about using as Brewmaster. Tiger Palm has a 10-yard range and dashes you to the target when used. I think this is probably better for Brewmaster than it is Windwalker. Problem is Brewmaster has really good legendary. So, but this is a really interesting one because, you know, being able to dash to a target as a tank, I would, if, let's put it this way, if that was a Blood DK option, I'd be taking that. And then the other thing is Tiger Palm also applies an effect which increase your critical strike chance by 50% now for 6 seconds on the target. Unfortunately, it can only occur once a minute and only lasts for 6 seconds. So that's freaking terrible if you ask me, but 50% more crit even for 6 seconds. This could be a huge burst window. But of course it's 1 minute per target. So if there's ever a fight where there's like 3 targets, let's put it this way. How about a fight where there's like 3, like a console fight, right, in a raid, and there's 3 targets and they're kind of stationary. You know, they're those bigger mobs, a lot of casts or something like that. They don't move a lot, but they're within a few yards, maybe like 15 yards of each other. So you can quickly dash to each of them and apply this big debuff to them. You know what I mean? So if you're tank swapping, kind of just dash to the other mob, hit it, do extra damage, you tank swap again, boom. I think that could be really good for that as Brewmaster. Obviously, that's what they're trying to get Windwalker to do, but nobody is playing that spec, so it doesn't even matter. They changed something about Expel Harm's level requirement, which doesn't make any sense to me. Apparently, that buff is now going to be removed from Shadowlands once the game launch, which is already in Shadowlands at the pre-patch. Anyway, oh god, this again. Anyway, yeah, that's about it. Touch of Death, Mistweaver, Windwalker, Brewmaster changes. I used to clear stagger damage based on 200% of the damage, so now it does reduce delayed stagger damage by 200% of damage dealt. So I guess that's better or worse. It's probably worse, but I have trouble understanding what that means. Bone Dust Brew has been buffed. Your abilities have a 50% chance to affect the target a second time, and that's, yeah, it's a way for all 4. So Feline Stomp has been nerfed, seemingly. And again, you have to be in the Feline, which I thought was weird because it had done not this for a while, which didn't make any sense, but up to 5 allies caught in the Feline are healed. And that's, again, the same for Brewmaster, right? Yeah. 40% attack power, though, so it's a pretty big nerf to this. This was looking like the best one, and I think maybe it was a little too strong offensively, so not surprising. What else? A lot of Feline Stomp stuff. I don't know why it's here so many times. Still don't understand that. Weapons of Order, though, has been buffed for Brewmaster, especially as instantly and hit enemies Keg Smash take 8% increased damage from you for 10 seconds. All the way up from 5 and 8 seconds. Stacking up to only 4 times, though. So, I mean, I think that's a net buff, but I'm not sure. I mean, it depends, obviously, because are you going to get that many Keg Smashes off all the time? I think the baseline being buffed is probably for the best for most players. So, and that's it for that. Escape from reality, your transcendence, blah, blah, blah. Again, within 10 seconds, ignoring call. This time, if you cast Vivifying yourself, its healing is increased by 70%, and 50% of its cost is refunded. Oh, refunded. Interesting. So that's actually a nerf for Brewmaster. We talked, I think the previous change happened last build. I remember talking about this. This is actually a nerf for Brewmaster because the big problem is they don't have enough energy. So this is definitely something that they probably want people using as Mistweaver, but not necessarily using as Windwalker and Brewmaster. So what they did was, instead of making it cost 50% less, which would mean you could just literally spam it, like the energy regen you'd have would make it so you could just spam the ability. Now you're going to be limited by energy regen to a sense, because if you don't have enough to cast it at all, then you can't cast it. Like you don't get the energy back until you cast it. So a slight nerf to that. But in general, I think this is a really interesting concept because being able to heal yourself for that much is pretty cool. I've always liked that concept of a tank actually healing themselves a lot. There's also this Way of the Fae. We should probably talk about this. Increase the initial damage of Feline Stomp by 10.5% per target hit by that damage, up to a maximum of 27.5 additional, and now it's 52.5 additional damage. So they changed a lot of the wording. Feline Stomp deals 5% additional damage per target. Yeah, a little confusing to me. I'm not really sure if, obviously this is better, right? It's a buff for sure. The wording is so complicated. So, but yeah, that's another big buff. But so it looks like they nerfed Feline Conduit or Feline Stomp, whatever it's called, and they buffed the Conduit for it. So might be a net gain in the end if you're using both. Now Paladin has some changes. For the most part, this is holy stuff only, but there is a whole post on this. Whole post. So I'm just going to read this before we start. Legendary Shadowbreaker Dawn of the Sun redesigned in the next build. The new design will work with both Light of Dawn and Word of Glory. So it's pretty interesting. We'll take a look at it in Wowhead. We want to avoid a situation where two holy specific legendaries only buff Light of the Dawn. And then there's Shining Protector. The duration extends. The duration is extended. So I don't actually know what the duration was, but people were reporting that this would just fall off now. So they said, in general, your next ability buffs should be long enough that the time pressure to consume the buff isn't too stressful. So yeah, it was like, if you didn't use Word of Glory enough, like you would never get any benefit from it. You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. But let's take a look at this. So this is what it said before. Here, let's just read it from here. Fucking thing. Light of Dawn's range is increased to 40 yards, and all allies inside your Light of Dawn receive 20% increased healing from your spells for 6 seconds. Okay. So anyway, Light of Dawn's range is increased to 40 yards. All allies within your Light of Dawn benefit from Mastery Lightbringer as though they were within 10 yards for 6 seconds. And also, Word of Glory receives 50% increased benefit from your Mastery. Now, that's for Holy Paladin. What does it do for Prop Pally? I'm very interested, because that's not what our Mastery is, right? How does this actually work for Prop Pally? I'd be very interested. It probably does nothing, I'd imagine. But I would be interested in seeing if it's got some weird interaction with it. Like, how weird, even if it was bugged, how weird it would be if it actually increased, you know, if it actually did something that the Paladin Mastery would be relevant. So I'd love your thoughts on that. I haven't tested it, but maybe somebody out there knows. And then also the Holy Shock change here, but so that's fine. Okay, so that's all holy stuff, right? Yeah, none of this. I mean, the Holy Light heals up to 5 targets within 8 yards. That could be something that Prop Pally uses, right? But not going to be doing that. So anyway, protection. So there's some relatively notable changes here as well. Endurance Conduit Guardian of Ancient Kings reduced by 15 seconds, and casting it causes your next Word of Glory to cost no holy power. So it went from 15 seconds to it's basically just been buffed on like the extrapolation of it. So it's still 15 seconds, but now it goes all the way up to 36 seconds, which I said absolutely needed to change. It needs to go even further. It needs to go to a minute for sure. This is too long of a CD for only 30 seconds off. It's just not. Nobody's going to take this, and hopefully they will change it again. But I like the concept of it. It's just never going to work unless it's really, really valuable. Guardian of Ancient Kings is just way too long of a CD for a tank to have, honestly, for as little as it does. But if they make this one, you know, valuable, I could see this being really good for Prop, especially in Mythic Plus. And then Vengeful Shock. Avenger's Shield causes your target to take 3% increased holy damage from you for 5 seconds. Now, I'm pretty confident in saying that this was one of the main reasons that Prop Pally was doing such insane offense. There's been a couple of them, and they've all been nerfed, I feel like, at this point. So, God, look at this number. 45% down to 7.2%. Isn't that just a giant change? Like, I haven't played a lot of Prop Pally recently. I kind of lost interest in it when they made all the changes to it all those times, but that is insane. I mean, that seems like that is insane, especially because it starts only at 3% now. So, yeah, Prop Pally worst tank now? I mean, this is why you can't make these changes. You can't make these videos early. And this is why all these people making these tier lists based on a single week of the beta are just doing everybody a disservice. Because those videos aren't going to get deleted. It's 3 months later, you know what I mean? Take them down. If you made a video on some shit that's no longer relevant, you got to realize. People got to realize that. Don't make sure it's obvious. You know what I mean? A lot of people do not do that. They make videos like if there's never going to be changes, and they don't even... That's why I'm making this series, because it's, you know, I want to make it obvious that every week things are changing and you need to follow these changes and learn from them. Anyway, probably nothing here. I didn't really take a look. This one's interesting. Judgment grants you virtuous commands for 6 seconds, which causes your Templar's Verdict, Crusader Strike, Blade of Justice attacks to deal 40% additional holy damage. We talked about this on the beta like a long ass time ago. I was like, would it be worth it for just auto attack? Because Crusader Strike, does that even exist? I don't think so. Anyway, would it be worth it? I think for most people the answer would be no, but I thought the concept was cool. And what did they change here? They made Blessing of Protection different timing, so that's interesting. Change this, the name of it, name change from Dusk Till Dawn to Of Dusk and Dawn, right? Because From Dusk Till Dawn is a film, so that's probably not a good idea. Divine Call, Divine Shield remaining cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds when you take damage. This effect can only occur every 48 seconds, and it can go all the way down to 20 seconds, but it used to go down to 15 seconds, so I'm surprised. Because it's only a 5-second reduction. What is this actually going to reduce it by? That seems terrible, honestly. About baseline, I would say that just sounds terrible. I haven't looked at it properly, but Golden Path. Now this one, I really, really, really wanted this one to be good. I really want this one to be good. But unfortunately, I mean, first of all, I don't even know. Is this actually a change? I'm not a mathematician, so I just don't even understand what I'm looking at. 200 divided by, let's do it. 200 divided by 100 times, I guess, just say 5% attack power. Yeah, that's the same, right? That's the same. That's not actually any different. 2 divided by 100 is 200 divided by 100 is just 2 times 5% of the attack power. Now it's attack power times 0.05, which is 5%, times 2. So there's no difference, right? I don't know why they do stuff like this. I don't know why Wowhead reports it is the bigger question. I really want that one to be good, though. I hope it will be. Divine Steed's duration is increased by 50%, and that can go all the way up to 120% now. So that's the buff. That's pretty good, because Divine Steed, this spec needs that. Let's put it that way. Great finesse conduit for them, especially if you have that PvP talent, right? Anyway, Potency Conduit Vanquisher's Hammer deals 20% increased damage and heals you for the damage done. And this got nerfed dramatically, so another big nerf to potentially prop Pally's damage, but I don't know how many people were taking the Necrolord Covenant one. Ringing Clarity. Divine Toll has a 40% chance to cast 3 extra times on the main target. Wow, man. Divine Toll is just looking like the best option, huh? It's crazy. Like by a mile, it feels like. I'm really surprised by that. Anyway, Endurance Conduit Casting Word of Glory grants you a shield that prevents damage equal to 15% of the healing done by your Word of Glory last 10 seconds. And this is something we talked a lot about when we were saying the potential of healing others. This could be really good for that, and it's an Endurance Conduit, so 36% is the maximum now. So that's cool. The Long Summer. Blessing of Summer has 25% longer, lasts 25% longer. But this isn't really too big of a change because it still caps out at 60. So it just starts way lower but goes up faster. So Turn Evil's cast time is reduced by 40% and its range is increased by 10 yards. Looks like it used to eventually get to instant cast and now it doesn't. So I don't know what all these little faces, what's that meant to look like, a Kirby or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the cloth stuff. Take one look at Warrior and we'll have a laugh. Fortunately, Warrior is just not, I don't know, something changed here with this, but other than that, like literally nothing. New anima power, and that is it. But we have a big change, which is always tough to find. Here we go. Echo of Eonar. Now, I played on Tuesday on the beta, if you didn't see that. We played without a soulbind as well. Or no, we played without a actual ability. That's what it was. We could not use the Night Phase Death's Due. We could not use it. Didn't work, so... but anyway, I used Echo of Eonar a lot. We talked a lot about this. This is now changed 3 times in 4 builds. So we talked a lot about that and Vitality Conduit too. I like the concepts of both of those legendaries, but now they're changing it yet again. So this is what it did before. This is a pretty big deal, by the way. Well, I can't see it before, apparently. Well, you could kind of tell by what it says. Your spells and abilities have a low chance to summon a spiritual familiar to your side, increasing your damage and healing by 5% and... So, I don't know. It's hard to... I'm trying to, like, tell you what it did before, but unfortunately, they don't want you to do that with this one for some reason. Let's see if we can see the spell diff, because I'm really interested in comparing this 1-to-1 here. Yeah, here we go. So this is what I used to do. Okay, this was last week's build. Or was it? September 09. What? This has got to be it. Yeah, anyway, summon a spiritual familiar to your side, increasing your damage and healing by 5%. Your spells and abilities have a chance to send an echo of your familiar up to 3 nearby allies, increasing their damage and healing by 5% for 15 seconds. So this was just literally a flat 5% damage and healing buff. I thought that was amazing for Blood DK because that is so big. A couple people brought up that it's just kind of worse than Vitality Conduit or whatever that's, I think that's the name of it. the one that gives you like the old vengeance mechanic back. It's just kind of worse than that one if you're taking a lot of damage, which you always would be in 5-mans. But in general, I like the idea here. Okay, so now they changed it. So your spells and abilities have a low chance to summon a spiritual familiar to your side, increasing your healing and damage by 10% for 10 seconds, and send an echo of your familiar up to 3 nearby allies, increasing their damage and healing by 5% for 10 seconds. And they made its change from procs per minute change from 2 to 1. But that's a little misleading because the way it used to work, the procs would be the things that would send it to others. So in general, I don't know exactly what a low chance means, but I don't know if it matters because we know it has 1 proc per minute, right? That means it's a low chance. So this is fucking terrible now, right? Like, I don't know. This is so nerfed. It's unbelievable, I feel like. So now you basically only have a 10% uptime. You know, you have 10% and then 10 seconds, which is going to be 10, like, you know, it's going to be terrible. So, but then it also could buff the allies for 10 seconds. So I don't know. I think they probably don't need this one in the game. It doesn't seem like they know what they want from it. But it's changed yet again now. So not a big fan of that. And that's probably it. I don't think there's anything else. Some weird stuff. But yeah, that's it. So let's take one look at one more thing. Okay, because this is something that I could have made an entire video on, but I just want to bring it up. Okay, just want to bring it up. They had changed the soul ash drop. I wouldn't call it drop rates, but the amount that you get. Okay, now this is a complicated topic and I don't have time to go into all of it, but long story short, you get it from doing Torghast. You use it to make legendaries. Okay, so the main, I think for most people, they just want to know how much effort do they have to get into making legendaries. The answer might not be what you think it is based on this post, because they worded it in a way that I think is clickbait, because this is really stupid to word it this way. Requirements to craft legendary increased in Shadowlands. Okay, sure. So the way it used to work here, let's see if they have the description here. Yeah. Soul ash required to craft a legendary has been increased in well. Chart below shows how much soul ash you need to craft a legendary at that rank. If you want to craft a legendary from scratch at a certain rank, you pay the total soul ash required. If you're upgrading to a new legendary, it costs you the amount that you haven't paid yet. So it's pretty cool, right? So the way it works is it used to cost 100 soul ash, okay, to get a single legendary made. And that's at eye level 190, which is going to be good for the opening week maybe, but you know, eventually you're going to want it at this rank, which is cost 400, okay? And then 1250 is now the number, okay? So completing both Torghast wings will now award you 1200, okay? So it used to be you'd get 100 per week, okay? And you'd be able to upgrade the legendary the exact amount every week, okay? So what they're doing here is they're giving you a lot more, but they're making it so that first week you can't craft it. You're going to need to do one other Torghast run that Tuesday, and then you can craft it. But if you notice, it costs less to upgrade it, okay? So in general, it's actually going to be better. You're going to get more legendaries per week, you know what I mean, than you would in the old system, but you're not going to get the legendary week 1. But so why did they do this? This is what I want everybody to understand. Why did they? It looks retarded, doesn't it? Like, why did they? First of all, why did they change it from 100 to 1250? I think they changed it for that because that's just what the math dictated in order to do what I'm going to tell you they're doing here. They're trying to make it so you do not need to do the maximum amount of Torghast runs every week to get a viable benefit. You understand? Because if you did the maximum every week, you'd just get all the legendaries at rank 4 quicker. But most people don't care about that. Most people probably don't want all legendaries at rank 4. They don't plan on using any of them. So the only thing that most people care about is getting probably 1 legendary at rank 4, or maybe 2 or 3 legendaries at rank 4 as fast as possible. And this is actually going to be better for this one way or the other. But if you don't have the time to do a full 8 things that first week, because this is a really big deal. The expansion comes out during a major holiday. Literally 3 days into the expansion is a major holiday. Days that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and oftentimes Saturday, I would not be present for. If you know me, I would usually be completely off the grid for those 4 days. That's gone now, okay? I have to play WoW. So either way, it doesn't matter to me. But there's going to be some people who still are doing things for Thanksgiving and doing stuff with family those days that they're not going to be able to play the game. So this should be looked at as a generosity. It should be like, oh, good. now you're not, because if you missed that first week, if you did not get all the soul ash, which would equate to 100 soul ash that first week, you're fucked. You're behind for the rest of the expansion, right? Everybody made a big deal about that in Shadowlands and BFA last season of BFA. So don't even think about not doing it now, okay? So they changed it now, and then all these people are like, lol, lol. All these people are saying that like this is stupid. They're dumb. Their company's dumb. You don't get to do this. You don't get to do this on both sides of the argument, okay? So this is why they're changing it. Hope everybody understands that. In the end, it's going to be way better. Out of the gate, it might look like it's worse, but it's actually a nice little generosity to those who are not going to be able to hit max level that first week and are going to miss out on potentially some of that soul ash. So hopefully this helps. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I just want to bring that up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Please leave your comments on when you think we should start thinking about this video. Should I wait until the last week before the actual launch of the game? Like, should I release it that Sunday when the game comes out Monday, just in case? Or should I be like, well, I think this is probably the end of the change, maybe the week before. I can't see doing much more than that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.